here in our Madison office today in North Florida, and we are preparing for a meeting here with our partner Analogics to go over our food plot lists and improvements for this season. I'm trying to get an early start here this spring and make sure that we get our soil balance right. We've already had about 3 meetings with them. Keeler has been actively involved in going through all the details of every plot, Mr. Drew on location, and Tim from Analogics has been working with us to make sure that we're picking the right type of locations for the right type of seed, that sort of thing. And we're going to basically about quadruple the amount of food plot habitat that we have out there, especially set up for bow hunting in those areas where historically, especially when you get into late season, crops are already harvested. There's just not a lot of greenery. And so, not only is we're trying to improve the health of the herd, but attract them, of course, to get comfortable right there in those stand locations and that sort of thing. So with all that said, we've got a call here we're fixing to get started on with Analogics. And so stay tuned for the details of that. It's a learning process for us. We're excited about the partnership with Analogics and all that they bring to the table. Got a great plan we're about to kick off with soil sampling and fertilizing and all the things of that nature, soil prep. And it's gonna be an active summer. We got a lot of work to do, getting ready for the fall. Hunting season never ends, so stay tuned. So just kind of start over, make introductions. Mr. Drew, of course, Tim has been helping us. This is probably our third meeting, Keeler, official meeting, where we've gone through here with Analogics, and they've helped us come back and go through, on a plot by plot basis, trying to determine, what might be the best fit for each plot area that we think we have. And I'm gonna pull up now the Onyx, so we can kind of talk about it and look at it. But these guys are certainly the experts when it comes to what type of minerals, what types of seed and all is going to be best for our application. And we Keeler has taken a lot of time with him to sit there and go over each of our plot areas, not only on the main farm here around the lodge and that sort of thing, but also out on the other lease farm. Keeler's going to share his screen so that you can see the spreadsheets and all that he has as well, because it has a list of each one of the plots, and we can just kind of go through them one by one.
Yeah, so I'm just going to do a split screen of basically the farm and also the Excel that I have mapped out.
That's cool.
So we kind of started on our farm and kind of went chronologically through the fields, made the plots and everything, and then kind of filled that into the spreadsheet of what we're going to plant, whether it's a mix, 2 separate things.
Hey, Keeler, hold on.
Yep. So like I said, basically, we went through all the plots. All the plots are the green outlined areas, and there's kind of some notes in there that add to that. And also, if you ever see any black lines like this one, it entails a screen, which is also in the Excel in column E. And they're kind of, they're rough measurements, but they're brought down to the feet of screen to kind of help with transcribing to, how many bags of seed we need. I think Tim said each will plant about 300 yards or 300 feet, right?
300 yards if it's 10 feet wide.
Okay, so exactly. So I have those down in, let's see, I think I have them all in yards. So it should, yep, all in yards. So this one's 104 feet. You can see on the spreadsheet, it's 104.
104 yards.
Yeah, 104 yards. And then in the notes section, it just kind of says, how we're going to format the plot based on the seeds prescription that Tim gave us. So this one, for instance, the north half would be a perfect 10 blend, which is more of a late season and has multiple variations of seed in it. And then the south half would use clover and chicory. And Tim, if you just want to go over again kind of why we picked those, I think originally the south half was just because of moisture issues. And also the north half was kind of like a transition. But if you had anything to add to that, kind of why we picked those mix for that plot specifically.
Yeah, basically that can handle a little bit more browse pressure The clover chicory can. So the deer are probably going to start at that point coming out of the bedding areas around that. And then as they transition to the north, then the perfect 10 is just another great green source right in front of the grain field to try and get them in and keep them there, so that you can observe them from that blind right there. Perfect 10 works everywhere. I mean, that's our number one food plot, but when you pair it with a clover chicory, it just gives another good green food source, high protein, and the clover chicory is going to come back year after year. So.
And this year, the main food sources should be planted in soybeans. So that's kind of why we're having the green to grain transition. Last year was in corn, so it's a little different situation, but it should pair well with soybeans this year. Yep. So like I said, we kind of just went through each of the plots, in different areas, mostly transition edges off of the main ag, as you can tell on all these green areas. But this is one we're excited about. It's right next to the cattle farm, and all this should be in soybeans this year. All this plowed up main ag you see, and then this will be a soybean plot of our own. And right now it's in CRP grasses, so spray, till, everything like that. And then as you get further north on this area right here, it's kind of on the pipeline, which is also grass, but will be clover. So we have a good diversity of soybeans and clover. Again, that green to grains transition, and we'll most likely put a stand right here where you see this pin, so you can shoot both fields. Also, something to note, the access is good. You come right off the main grade Indian Point Road, walk down a gravel road, which is almost like a ditch.
Mhm.
It's covered pretty well, and it's grown up around the side. So really good access, short walk, and should be a really good spot.
Yeah, because one of the things I was going to add, and is, again, we got all the right people here talking about this, because we've had a year now, a great learning experience in there this last season, really getting to know the terrain and the access to each of these different stand areas, amongst these 3 or 4 different farms. And Drew was absolutely right in what he told us the first time, which is like anything else. You start pressuring deal a little bit. You got public land maybe on one side of you. A lot of those deer, especially the older, more mature deer, they'll tend, there's your public land to the west. And then as they get pressured, both from us or public land hunters or other private land hunters, they go back into those thickest draws or the ones that are most remote. All you got to do, bump them one time out of a smaller draw, and they just move over into a more secure area. But to hunt those deer, as you get into later season, you're trying to rut hunt them. It's hard to get in there and be undisturbed, and not really let those deer know that you're around, especially if you're driving ATVs in and out and that sort of thing, and they pattern you. And so a lot of these cases, we're coming back to what Drew had told us originally, which was access. How do you get to that? So a lot of the stuff all the way back on that southeast corner of our farm there, the Indian Point Plantation Farm, you had to come through 2 or 3 different stand areas, either walking or on a Polaris or whatever, to get back in there to them. And so, of course, we were very selectful. We only hunted those on a very occasional basis if the wind was right and all that. But now having that farm adjacent to it that they call the cattle farm, that goes all the way through to the east to Indian Point Road, under our control, that really gives us the good access points to be able to come in there and not disturb those deer, especially if we're coming in the afternoon. If you're coming in the afternoon, you're walking in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you can come from the road and walk, down that field trail that has a natural buffer, a natural screen, and slip into that box stand, and then be in a great position, if assuming the wind's right, like it is right now, to where those deer are going to be upwind of you coming out into those fields. We can really slip in and out of there, especially in the afternoons, undisturbed, and not make those deer feel pressured, which I think is part of what we saw last year. So really excited about that. I think that's a great stand location. And you can see where previously that stand per se, there was a box stand just down to the left, redneck blind, at the end of that cattle gap. And then we got some ladder stands that surround it. But after watching the deer movement all through the year, that corner right in there, if we put in a good plot like you're talking about, could really become a good honey hole over the next few years, that travel path. So that's an exciting spot. And that's a lot of what we're doing. You know, we've got existing plots or existing stands where we're looking to improve plots. We're putting in new plots, but in a lot of these areas, we're just kind of maybe reformatting them a little bit, adding some acreage and just trying to create corridors, connected corridors, really, I would say. So,
And Drew, just so you know, the beans that we're putting in there, they are glyphosate tolerant. So you can spray them. They're not Enlist, so they can't be sprayed with 2,4-D, but you can use glyphosate, which is the generic Roundup.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. While we're talking, I just got an email. Tag results are coming out for some of the other states, so it'll be interesting. We'll see what happens in Kansas this year. Tag results in Kansas just came out. But
I just bought my preference point for Iowa today, so.
did you?
Yeah.
Okay, good job. Well, you know, man, it's like we were talking about earlier. You know, all of our states, southern states, Midwest states, there's a lot of fun opportunities to chase various, you know, game. But it is getting tougher and tougher in some of the, you know, premier areas to come in, you know, from out of state and be able to get a tag. And so that just makes it more and more precious. And one of the reasons that we're focusing right here in this Southern Illinois area is for that same reason. You know, these deer and this game here, they're well protected. Not just anybody and their brother can come in there and start whacking deer, especially with a gun. You know, the gun seasons are very limited. So that offers a lot of protection. It really gives you a much better chance to, you know, for those that are fortunate enough to get to hunt it this season, of seeing a mature buck, you know, getting a good opportunity on a mature buck. And when we say mature buck, you know, we're hoping to get them, you know, 5, 6, 7, not 3. And that's the challenge. So Keeler, you want to keep running through some of them?
Yeah, so one we're really excited about this year, Mr. Drew will tell you about that, is something we call the 100 acres. Last year, for some reason, there was a lot of bucks on there. And Drew can kind of tell us a little bit about what we're planning on the this 100-acre piece, which is, you know, just contains this field right here, and then also some woods to the north. I have it marked right here.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of combines, you know, these really thick hammocks down here, and also some ag, and also big timber to the north. So Drew, if you just want to tell us a little about the 100 acres and kind of why it's special, and also kind of what we're planning.
Well, the areas that we've got marked on there for the food plots, but if we can get some type of screen grasses, I guess, I don't know what the proper name with your company is. I think it's Conceal with Whitetail Institute.
Yeah, we have one called Roadblock. That would be.
Roadblock.
Yep.
How tall does it get? How tall will it get?
10 to 12 feet.
Okay. And do you plant it like July or something, or?
You want to give it as much time as corn to get that tall. So when soil temperatures reach 65, 70, which you guys I'm sure are already there.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
So
good.
Yeah, it needs 100 days of growth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just like corn, it likes nitrogen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as soon as we get his approval on being able to put the plots where we've got mapped off there, of course, we can get started with the screen stuff in there. And then, of course, I guess the clover and anything else we want to put in there, that probably needs to be done by late August, early September.
Yeah, you want at least 6 weeks before any threat of frost on those fall planted clover blends.
Yeah. Okay. And we got to get our soil samples and everything too, which that ground ought to be pretty good. It's been farmed for a long time, but it still may need, some different things put in it a little bit. But that farm it's the most wide open farm we've got. There's not hardly anywhere to hunt it, but it's got 2,000 or 3,000 acres of no hunting that joins the very back corner over here, and then some other private ground and some public over there. But it has the biggest deer on that one piece of property every year, not just one, but there's usually 6, 7 over shooters every year. And we can't hunt them because it's so wide open and everything, just can't get set up right. So hopefully with
the challenge,
build good screens and stuff to get in and out, we should be able to hunt them and have a food plot instead of them just coming out at random feeding anywhere in that 100 acres, they'll have a destination to
give them some time and place predictability.
Yeah. Yep. it ought to be an interesting year over there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a special spot. And like you said, if we can, they already come out and funnel into those areas that we're pinpointing. It's just a matter
Yeah.
of giving them even more of a reason to
Yeah,
come there
to
and
head
spend some
right
time.
toward your stand. Yep.
Mhm. And
that'll
to
work.
give us some screen. One of the things
Yeah.
is if I'm not sure, Drew, we can talk to the farmer if that's going to be corn this year. I know it was beans last year, so I'm thinking it might be corn this year. If it
Yeah.
is, one of the things we could do for screen in that particular location, once we
Please.
talk to the farmer and find out, is we could see if he would leave standing corn,
Yeah, I bet
just
he will,
like
yeah.
a couple rows along the edge all
Yeah.
the way back, and that would
Yes.
provide a decent screen
Yes.
to
And
get in
he's
there as
willing
well.
to meet us when you guys come in
Yes, sir.
or before, if I need to go up there and see him before, but if you guys are there, that's fine too. We'll all go up and meet with him.
Yes, sir.
But he's on
Okay.
board for about anything, I think. So
Good deal.
should be
Good
good.
deal. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that worked well for us last year in areas where we had standing corn to be able to use that as a screen to get in and
Yeah.
out like your highway stand.
Yes.
Flip over to the highway stand, Keeler, if you don't mind, so we can look at that one. That's a good example. But that highway stand, I know that was one of your favorites last year, Drew, and a lot of good deer in there. And the way you were getting in and out of that was like you said, just coming right from the highway there, and with the corn stand and all, especially, you could just kind of slip right
Oh,
down
yeah.
that ditch.
Slip right in and out. Yeah.
I mean, you could about get
Absolutely.
in there and get in the stand with deer in the field.
Yep. And
Yeah.
next year, if we get everything set up really good this year to keep adding on, this corner up here, that the far corner across from it up there that's all grown up, we can actually get.
I think
we can
he's
get
talking farther
permission.
south, right? Right about where it says 400 feet.
No, see, it would be kind of from where the stand is. It'd be the north east corner right there.
Right.
Yeah, right up in there. All that, I don't know. There's a couple acres probably there, just grown up stuff that they don't farm. That I'm sure I could put a food plot up there, but it's slanting going uphill, and I don't know how we would put a screen because if I got soybeans out there and you had a really good food plot, it might invite poachers in there. I don't know, but if we could figure out a way to get them grasses to grow tall enough, maybe make couple of different layers of it, kind of hide the deer that are coming out eating the clover and chicory, that would be unbelievable.
Yeah, what I would suggest in a situation like that, before you even try the screen, put a step ladder out where you want the screen and climb up it so you're 10 feet tall, which would be the height of the tops of the Egyptian wheat.
Yes.
And then have somebody from the road see if they could see, over the ladder.
Yep. I think what we'd have to do, and this is probably the only way to hide it completely would be if you put a screen down at the lower part and it'd get 10 or 12 feet and then do just like you said. But then when you start going uphill just a little bit and you're getting where it's visible again, you have to put another little line of that.
Oh yeah. Make it like a
a
switchback.
Yeah. Just 2 or 3 little small strips of it to hide the deer in there, and that they'll love it too. But that's the only way really to have a food plot in that particular place, because it does go uphill pretty good. But even on a slanted hill, usually clover does really good on that kind of ground and everything. But that would be an unbelievable spot to get a plot in there.
Yeah.
Probably,
well, like you said, because that would allow you to be able to, put in a different stand set up right in there for bow hunting. And
Absolutely.
then, if it all got cropped, and you wanted to gun hunt it, you could slide into what's existing highway stand there.
Yeah.
But,
well, you could probably get in the existing highway stand and bush hog down a little bit of it right before gun season, a little bit of your cover that we're trying to plant, just for a shooting lane, when they're a little bit where they're not really seeing them off the highway all year, but you could bush hog a 20-yard section on each one of them to open it up where you can see them up in there.
Well, and
Yep.
depending on the wind, too, it's nice to have multiple stand options
Yeah.
depending on the wind and all as well. Because
Uh-huh.
if the wind was right and you could come in off the highway right along that woodland to where Keeler just added that stand,
Yeah.
along the wooded block would be a good location too. And then just to the south of it, there's a pond in there, right, Keeler? Isn't there a
Yes.
pond?
Yep. Yes.
Yeah, there's a pond down there. Okay.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it on
Gotcha.
the map down there, right across the line, property line, right there. Yep.
Right. Right. Okay.
It's
Um,
a big buck area.
that is. Okay, good. Well, I'm glad we added that one. Should we add that one to the spreadsheet? Just so we
certainly can.
Yeah, we can add that one, give it a plot number.
Yep.
What is the
We'll
size of
add
that
it.
one?
Uh,
Can you look at the acreage on that one?
Oh, the size? Yeah.
Mhm.
1.5.
1.5 acres, he said.
0.5.
Yeah.
I would probably do the bottom acre. It looks like to me about an acre would be the bottom and then a half acre would be the top. That
uh-huh.
pretty close. I would say beans in the one acre and then put clover plus alfalfa in the top.
Yep. Okay.
He's gonna go ahead and add it to the sheet while we're talking about it, just so we can make notes. And while he's doing that, you know, Drew, we're going to, finish going kind of through these and then give you some time to look over that list and think about it. But what we'll do is, as we get towards the end of this call, again, this is our third call, and they really spend a lot of time going through each
Yeah.
specific stand site. And then I know when Keeler actually comes up there with you here in just a couple of weeks, you're
Yeah.
going to go through and Onyx is great. I mean, it's an awesome tool for what we're doing
Yes.
here and so many other things. But at the same time, like Tim was saying, we'll go out there and kind of physically verify the location of
Yeah.
where we want to put those things, where those edges are. Maybe take your marking flags, kind of mark them out, and those
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
things.
Yes.
So that and then at the same time we can take soil samples, right? And
Yep.
for each plot area, and just make
Yep.
sure we don't have any significant deficiencies that would
Right.
maybe change our mind about what kind of seed we need to put in or what we need to
Yes.
spray or do. Um,
Uh-huh.
and then because we're going to go ahead and total up, all this count for seed and those sort of things, and go ahead and get that process started.
Yeah.
Obviously, some of these areas, like this plot right here, for example, if that's just currently that's just existing turf, just kind of grown in field area that hadn't been
Yeah.
planted in a few years. I
Right.
think we've got that in a few locations,
Yeah.
a number of locations. And so, I guess I asked you this, Tim, if we're planning on coming in here within the next, month or 6 weeks and starting that planning process, we would want to come in probably and spray these fields first, right? Because most of these seeds, I mean, we're not just overseeding, we're putting them in the dirt. So we probably want to come in there and spray those first and give them week to 10 days after you've sprayed them to get a good kill, and then turn them over.
I've planted the same day that I've sprayed, and with Roundup, you're not hurting anything because Roundup only impacts the green growing vegetation. It doesn't
Right.
impact the seed. So
Okay.
if you
Okay,
look
so
at the label of Roundup, it'll suggest to wait 1 week. But I'm saying in a pinch, I've got leases on the other side of Minnesota that I only got 1 weekend. I cut it and I spray it
Okay.
the same day, and then the
Yeah.
very next thing I'm doing is planting right there.
Sure. Well, and I asked that question. Obviously, we've done these kind of things before, but I want to get your opinion on it because, it doesn't have to be perfect this first growing season anyway. And no matter what you do, when you turn over turf, you're going to get some growth that comes back and that sort of thing. A lot of people want to
Mhm.
spray 2 or 3 times. And but I understand with the type of seed we're putting in, we can spray it once it's come up.
With
like
the
you
Pro
said,
Bean blend, you can. Yep.
with the Pro Bean. Now, when it comes to clover or alfalfa, that's not necessarily the case. Although you might be
It
able to
can't
spray
be
2,
sprayed
4
with
deep.
Roundup, but it can be sprayed with other herbicides that are specific to broadleafs and grasses within alfalfa and clover fields.
Okay.
Yep.
So I think, as part of this plan, once we get this figured out and we look at what we're planting, one of the things that we'll need to kind of document on our plan is, okay, for this type of plot that we're planning, if we're going to go in and let's say we spray it first, we till it under, I guess, again, we're not going to wait to see, what grass comes back and then spray it again. So if we're going to go ahead and get seed in the ground, which Keeler can do while he's up there for, 2 weeks during this period here in late June. But as that occurs, and like you said, the beans start to come up and that sort of thing, we're going to need to set a time frame, basically, going forwards over the next few months of, okay, when are we going to come back and spray those plots, and what are we going to spray them with, and that
Yep.
sort of thing. So we'll
I have a helpful document on my website. If you want to jump over to there quick, just go to analogics.com, and I'll just show you where this is. And Drew, you can look at this anytime.
Okay.
Keeler's punching it in now to try to pull it
Okay.
up. So we
Yeah,
can-
so ANILOGICS.com. Yep, click on home.
Okay.
And then if you just hover over shop, and then go down to food plot seeds and hover, and then go to seed selector chart. Now, the purpose of this was to just have all the different plot options and show you what they can be used for. But if you keep
Yeah.
scrolling down, there's a herbicide chart. Herbicide guide, that's what we call it.
Okay.
Oh.
So every crop is listed on the left side of that. And then to the right, you can see, so you're looking at the fertility guide right now. Off to the right is the herbicide guide, everything in blue. So like, for instance, Pro Clover, you can see that crop there listed on the left. Pre-emerge means before any of the Pro Clover seeds have come out of the ground.
Uh-huh.
So before you plant, you can spray it with glyphosate, and kill all the existing vegetation, or you
Yep.
can spray it with post and get rid of the grasses.
Okay.
Once the plants have come up from the Pro Clover, then it becomes post-emergence, and then you can spray it with Pursuit, which Pursuit is a trade name. The important thing is you want the active ingredient of imazovapine.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And then same thing, you can spray it after it's emerged. You can spray it with Cleanse, which is a trade name for a herbicide that uses clethodim, which kills grasses.
Yeah. I've used that Cleanse. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. Usually
So-
the way we've always done it, and this even sounds better, what Justin was saying, but usually we'll go in and we'll bush hog the area that we're going to plant, and we wait about 8 to 10 days. And when that new growth starts growing, then we go in there and spray it, kill it out with the Roundup and whatever we need. And then we usually give that another 10 days, and then we disc it under and get ready to plant. But if you can go in there with that bush hogging at first, if you can go in there in them tall grasses, which a lot of them are tall. I mean, some of these grasses like be 4 or 5 feet tall.
Mhm.
This time of year, will it kill them all out by just spraying that tall?
If you just spray the tall grasses, you won't get a good kill rate. What I do in that situation, if I had that time, I would absolutely do what you're talking about. Bush hog,
Yeah.
wait 8 to 10 days, spray.
Yeah.
But I don't have that much time. So what I do is I cut it with the bush hog as far to the ground as I can, and I spray immediately after. Like
I mean,
within
the same
hours. If you
day-
wait a day,
Yeah, okay.
it won't work as good because those stems will go into dormancy because they've just been chopped, and they
Okay.
slow themselves down for a day. But if you go in there immediately after you've cut and spray it with Roundup, the Roundup soaks into those stems and they die. I get a really
Okay.
good kill.
That sounds real good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like you said, cut,
It
mow
is.
it, and then spray it immediately, and that makes sense. And I think we've done
Yeah.
that before, and it's been effective. But in a lot of cases, like Mr. Drew said, trying to be conservative, we mow everything and then kind of wait for it to resprout, and then do it, or turn it over, wait
Yep.
for it to try to come back up, spray it again. But I think, like you said, for time being of the essence, if we can hit it and then spray it and knock it all at one time like that, and then come back in within a day or two, and like you said, plow it under and then come back and start seeding it. That would
Yeah,
definitely
just
be
know
okay.
that if you try and plow it while the stems are still green, it'll be harder than when they turn brown.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
The thatch layer will be thicker.
Yeah, like you say, and yeah. let's go to, maybe Keeler, if you want to, where we've got the CRP, some of that old CRP grass, just native grass right now, and how thick that is, right behind the lodge.
But just before we did that, I just want to make sure I had the combination of
Oh,
seed
yeah,
right
sure.
on this hillside. So you said pro bean for the
Yeah,
lower half,
pro
right?
bean blend in the bigger bottom field. And then I said clover plus alfalfa in the top there.
That makes
I
sense.
like it, yeah.
And I would actually, if we could get away with it, instead of running that screen right up to the edge of the stand, I would leave a gap somewhere in there for the deer to get from one to the other about
Yeah.
at bow range.
I got you.
Yes.
I will edit that later. But
Mhm.
you want to go to the back CRP, Deb?
Well, we don't have to jump there yet. We'll talk about it in a minute.
Okay.
If you want to, let's look at the rest of them down there near the South Greenfield and
Okay.
just make sure that, Mr. Drew thinks we're doing the right thing there. Cause again, he knows that field better than us, and that's gonna be that's gonna be a big plot.
Yep.
That's gonna be a
Yes.
really good draw, probably one of the best on our farms.
Yep.
There. So right now, it's actually bigger than I originally thought. Originally, I thought it was only going to be 0.75 acres, a little below an acre, but
Mhm.
it is going to be 2.5 acres, correct, Mr. Drew?
Yeah. Yep, that's
Okay.
right. Yep.
So we might need to alter the game plan a little bit there, because originally we had it in a fixing clover,
Mhm.
to kind of put nitrogen back in the soil. But do you have any other thoughts if it's going to be that 2.5 acres?
I would say put 2 acres of beans on the south half of that, and then put your fixing clover in the north point, right
Yeah.
there.
So
I
think-
forget what was going to be the rest of that field.
So it's
They'll
going to
either
be
plant corn or
this year.
beans, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if it'd be corn or soybeans, but be one or the other. And the reason that Tony give me that, it doesn't get, the crops don't do as good back in there. The woods tighten up a little bit more, I guess, and it seems like he has a little bit more trouble on the very back half of what he gives us, with some type of, I don't know what kind of weeds they are, but he has a lot of trouble killing out everything in there year after year. And he just finally, he just said, if you want that for a food plot, he said, I'm not getting enough return off of my crops out of that. And he said, maybe if you plant some food, they'll eat that instead of coming up there and eating my crops too. So
Yeah.
Well,
I
the
mean,
other thing
I
too
think you
is-
definitely need to put some utilization cages in these, back corner food plots like this, because I bet you'll be surprised. Inside that cage, you'll have beans that are 3 feet tall, and outside that cage, you'll have, 6 to 8 inches.
And if he
So-
doesn't plant corn this year, we will need to put a screen right across the very south end of that plot. And, where they can't drive by from the road out there and see the deer out feeding in the food plot. That's not good anytime. Yeah, but we can.
Right.
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got one marked right there.
Yes.
So we can include that
Yeah.
about 100 yards.
Yep.
80 yards.
So if we were to split it up, the south half or bigger area, right, being the pro beans.
Yep,
And
I
then-
would make a 2 acre square or a rectangle is what it'll end up being. My guess is it'd be right about where the
Band
plot
is.
lowers and makes a little angle like this. Just cut that straight across, and then you've got about a
Out
half
there.
acre to the north and then 2 acres to the south.
I'll tell you what, the tools that we have available to us now with GIS mapping and the contours and how accurate that is, and to be able to come in and mark this stuff out and do so much that we used to have to do on chicken scratch pad and pencil and all not too many years ago out there just stepping it off. It really makes a big difference. It'd be very hard for us, especially not, being right there hands-on the farm every day, to be able to plan this stuff out at this level across, thousands of acres, multiple different farms, where we're expanding plots or, adding new plot areas, that sort of thing.
Yep.
It's a tremendous tool. So it's
Mhm.
really cool to kind of get to see this really in use. Up until the last few years, we've used these type of tools primarily more for just, stand placement, how to get to the stand, looking at aerial maps, but now really
Yeah,
getting into
marking
the
rubs and
weeds.
scrapes and stuff like that.
Yeah, but really getting into the details and the weeds here with this thing now, it's an amazing tool, and miraculously the deer can still outsmart us.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
But it's a very,
Does
very
this
helpful
one
tool.
remind me, were we focusing on bow or gun for this one?
Probably
What-
mostly bow, but I'm sure we may want to gun hunt it. Some of us
Yeah, right.
probably at some point. Yeah.
Yeah,
What
I'm
is
sure.
what is the distance from the stand on the east side to the far woods edge? Is that
70
more than a
acres,
bow
70
shot across there?
It's
It's
probably
it's
80 to 100 yards, isn't it?
Yeah.
from the stand that's on the edge of the wood line, it's about 76 yards. I sat in the stand and shot it with my rangefinder.
Okay.
But now when you go a little further south and you come over to that box stand, which is right there to the right, right there.
Yeah.
Now that one, that's different. That's definitely a gun stand. Not to say one can't come close enough to you, but that's designed to be able
Yeah.
to come in and not pressure those deer as much, and be able to shoot across that ditch or canal
Yeah.
over into that field and even up onto that hillside. And that's a 100 to 150 yard shot probably
Okay.
across there, right, Dre?
Yep. 130, 140 probably for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it can be hunted both ways, again, depending on the wind, depending on what's planted in the rest of that field. When you kind of zoom out on a larger scale, just looking at that area, you'll see that, the reason that's such a good spot, it's not just because, okay, we got this little plot stuck back here in a nook. You see all those farming and agricultural fields to the south, and those
Mhm.
deer are naturally funneling around the edge of those ridges and coming out into those big fields at night and things of that nature. So, we're already, we're just like a staging spot right there. Those
Yeah.
deer are coming and going, and we're just trying to get them stopped long enough and hang out kind of close to their bedding area. And as Drew knows, and as Keeler knows now, he was fortunate enough to be able to harvest the biggest buck he's ever killed right there on that lock-on stand up on that ridge. And those deer were bedding fairly closely just to the north in there, within a couple of 100 yards
Yep.
of the edge of that field, and then just working their way around and down those wood lines to come out in those fields at night and things of that nature. And so, getting them comfortable enough where they'll, feel like they can come and hang out in the back corner of that little field in there, should really help improve our odds on getting a look at some of the
Oh,
more
yeah.
mature deer without having to
Mhm.
really get in their bedroom.
Yeah.
I think that's the idea. Yeah. But like you said, it could be hunted later season with a gun and that sort of thing, from that box stand, just as well.
Yep.
Yep.
So,
And
um,
Keeler, I forgot to tell you too, we also, I don't think we marked this, but behind the old barn area, that would be west of the food plot we're looking at, right behind the old barn area, we can put
west.
a food plot in there if we want to. Right in there, yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is a good
Yeah.
spot. We looked at that, and I think you've got
Yeah.
to stand just up the ridge from that,
Yeah.
as well, right?
Yeah, the ultimate would be up on that power line that you're pretty close to right there right now. But it's so rocky and it would be so difficult, I think, to get any equipment to take care of all that. But if it was something that come back year after year, and we did happen to have of course, the loggers made a couple of new roadways to get up and down through there when they went up through there and did a lot of clearing on Albritton up there, and Farley. But if we had one right up there in that center and that gas line, that would be unbelievable up there. Right there, anywhere right in there on us, yeah. We just may have to physically look at it and see if we think we could get our equipment up there and find an area that doesn't have enough of that, that limestone rock that we can disc up and make a good little plot right there.
Yes, sir. You might have to come down to it from the top side.
May have to, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. We'll look at that. So that
Yeah.
could be a spot for a potential
honey
plot,
hole
like
there.
you said, up on the pipeline, honey hole. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your thought? What is that field right in there behind the barn? Is that a,
That's
um,
it's growed up. I had a food plot at
Okay.
one time in there, but
Okay.
it did real good for a few years. Yeah,
okay.
but
It's not farmed. It's not farmed or
No.
anything.
Oh, it's I'm gonna guess it's probably 2 acres, isn't it? Or
Says it's about an acre.
Acre, okay.
Looks like,
Yeah,
yes,
so
sir.
it'd be
Which
perfect,
is
yeah.
still a lot. That's a big area.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Well, we could go ahead and mark it down, and once you get out there and physically look at it, even if you don't put it there, you could use
Yeah.
that same acre per se up on the pipeline, up there
Yeah.
where you're talking about, if we could
either,
get
yeah, either
get
spot,
up there.
yeah.
Yes. Of course, we'll be up there with
I
some
would
equipment
say
on.
for that type of plot that has got woods on both sides, I would do clover plus alfalfa or clover plus chicory. One of those
Yeah.
two.
Yep, I agree.
Chicory
What did
does a
you have
little
in
bit
there
better
before,
in
Mr.
the
Chris?
shade than
Yeah.
like just regular clover does.
Will the
What did you have in
alfalfa,
there?
I had clover, Whitetail Institute clover, and it did really well. Will the alfalfa do good here? Because I hear different
The
people.
reason I say alfalfa because of the rocks,
Okay,
alfalfa does better in a drier soil.
okay,
So
all right. Well, the
it's
drier,
just got a deeper taproot than clover does.
okay. The deer love the alfalfa if you can just I've tried it a few times over the years and I've had it work just a little bit, but
And
maybe
the
I
only
wasn't planting.
the only reason we don't do a straight alfalfa is because as soon as you get a couple frosts on alfalfa, it wilts, whereas
Yeah.
clover stays greener longer.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
of course, we generally, I think, have just been pretty much hunting, just the travel corridors where they're coming in and out of those fields,
Yeah.
or working those field edges just along whatever has been planted out there. But there's certainly some areas in there where I think we could plant some plots maybe. So I think Keeler went in and just kind of set it up where we had some flexibility with like overseed. Is that what y'all talked about?
Yep. So basically, I got Amazing Grains Overseed. That's their premier product for kind of a late season food source you put in just over what's ever harvested.
Okay.
If I'm not wrong, it's almost a no-till, right?
It
Okay.
can be. Yep. It's a blend of cereal, rye, there's winter wheat, there's oats, and there's winter peas
Yeah,
and triticale. So
Yeah.
there's those 5 things that, they can be planted real late, and it's a lot of guys use them for cover crops because it'll grow some green. Even I planted some as late as October 7th in Minnesota last year and still got some green carpet to grow, 3 inches out of the ground.
yeah.
So
And when you're doing it like that, overseeding, are you fertilizing after you plant as it comes up, or you just making
I
sure the
actually
soil's balanced?
fertilize those in the springtime because I had crops that I planted in the spring, and then I overseeded into those crops. So I
Okay.
fertilized them in the spring, but
Okay.
you could hit them with fertilizer right after you plant. You can just spread urea
if you-
right
if
out
you-
because
Yeah, but
They're
you already
nitrogen
had
lovers.
your soil balanced. You already had your soil balanced there pretty much
Mhm.
on
Yep.
site.
which
Didn't really
this
add
farm field
after.
should have as well, if the
Yes.
farmer's any good.
Right. That one right there that he's looking at now, my main thought is just, previously I think we kind of just overseeded that with clover and such.
Yeah.
Which worked okay, but it really didn't create a real good draw just to that specific spot. And so, with what we're looking at putting in there now, it should, radishes and clover and things of that nature.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, basically you're
So-
just gonna carve out like a half circle within 40 yards of that tree stand and make that all radishes, and then the rest of the plot be clover.
Right. I think that'll make a big difference. That was one of our most productive stands last year, but
Yeah.
you just had to get real lucky for that deer to come right in front of the stand. I mean, they had a lot of different ways they could cross through there between those corridors. And now, so in those areas, again, going back over the plan where you're talking about spraying, turning it over, you've got some really good existing turf in there with those native grasses is thick. So like Drew said, I guess you'd bush hog it down and spray it immediately, and then come back as soon as it turns brown within a few days or week and turn it over. But if it's too rough or too clumpy, you might give it a day or two to decompose or something, maybe get some rain on it, come back, plow it one more time just to try to get, some of those, clumps of grass broken up, right? To where you can get the
Mhm.
seed out and it not be just too
Yeah.
rough probably, right? We've got a good tiller there, and that'll probably be helpful. I'm used to the old, rope, just plows, drag plows. We got a good tiller there, so that'll probably
Yeah.
be helpful. As long as we can get most of it a kill on it, we should be able to till it up pretty good
Yeah.
and turn it into some nice plots right there.
Oh, yeah.
The one that's right up there, we call the stinky stand, right up next to the pond. I think that could really
Yeah.
be a sweetheart stand.
Uh-huh.
And access being so good from the lodge right there, to be able to
Yes.
get to it.
Uh-huh.
So the only question we're gonna have to figure out there is how much we want to do as far as the, um, putting in something to make them feel comfortable, like you said, Drew, instead of, them crossing and looking both ways and keeping walking. If you really want them to spend time out there in the middle of that field, I think like he's talking about putting in the screens is probably
Yep.
going to be essential.
Yep. Yep. Yes,
Like you
sir.
said, probably need to go ahead and get them in the ground as soon as he gets up there, in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. What is
Yeah.
the earliest we can plant some of the stuff?
Well, we could be planting
The-
now.
The screening stuff, yeah, like I said, as soon as soil temp hits 65, which we're there in Minnesota right now. So,
Uh-huh.
but we just
And
hit it,
beans.
a week ago. So
But the clover and stuff, what's the earliest we can do it?
that
Probably
the
mid-August.
clover could actually be frost seeded, which you could have done in, February
Yeah.
and right up through, the end of May, early part of June.
Yeah.
The later you plant clover in the spring, you risk it droughting out in the middle of the summer,
Yeah.
is what you risk.
Yeah.
So there'll be a time where if you plant it too late into June, then it won't get established enough to get enough roots to survive if you don't get rain throughout like the middle of July at all.
Right. So
So
when would your next chance to plant it would what be mid-August or?
then you'd want to hit the fall planting window, which we say is 6 weeks before the threat of first frost. First frost is October 16th average. So we want to have the fall stuff planted the week around September 1st. Like so
Yeah.
a week before or a week after.
Okay.
If I had to pick a date, I'd pick like August 20th, somewhere in there,
Yeah.
just to make sure they're done.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
And I would say Labor Day would be the last day you'd want to be
Yeah.
getting
Uh-huh.
the clovers planted. Now, Amazing Grains, you could plant that up till, October 1st
Okay.
and still get a
The
good
plan of
stand.
attack should be to plant. So I'm going up there specifically to plant, do all the other things, spray, till, whatever else at the end of June. So I would want to get, the screen and the beans in first, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And do as much prep as you can. And if there's any fertilizing that really needs to get done, if there's any that are very deficient, probably replace stands, things of that nature, get things set up. And then, like you said, just prep for the clover and all going in August.
Yep.
Mhm.
Because if you waited until the end of June to plant these clovers, it would probably dry up before
Yeah.
you would get a good established clover plant.
I agree.
Because clover and alfalfa are both, they're called cool season perennials. So they do best in spring and in fall. And then they kind of just go to sleep throughout the middle part of the summer.
I know Keeler has spent more time with you and again, went through each of these plots, and I really appreciate your time, your input on what might be the best, not only the layout of the plots and location, but again, the plan, the type of seed, that sort of thing is very, very helpful. And you know your products better than we do. So, we've always been a little bit more, dealing with the local co-op wherever we are, putting our own seed potions and things together and kind of figuring it out on our own with local resources. And so again, we think it's invaluable for us with the amount of time and money and all that being invested, and especially trying to create not just an annual, but a real good type of perennial setup, that we're going to be working on here over the next few years. I think it's invaluable. So, I guess at this point, next steps is when we get off the call is, we'll go through, we'll make sure we total all this kind of stuff up. We'll send you an email and we can correspond, make sure that we kind of have the right numbers on what all we need, and then get a schedule for delivery of the products and things of that nature. I don't know. We'll just share the spreadsheet to you, Tim, if you hadn't seen it, and total up some numbers, make sure we got our math right when we get off the phone. But that way we can make sure we got our order right for the various stuff. Obviously we'll round up, doesn't hurt to have some extra seed. We can we'll always find some extra spots to put it, or if it doesn't come up good, we can always reseed a little bit and supplement and add to it. But is there anything else you see in the way
I
that
would
we're
add,
kinda
I would add a
organizing this?
column, and maybe you have already, but something about soil testing done and like a date. And then maybe add like what fertilizer you added to it.
Very good.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna say. I know you see a lot of this, and of course dealing with the crush team and different ones. I know they've done this quite a bit, and have a well organized plan.
And what they do is usually about a 2 to 3 year rotation on their plots. They don't soil test every plot every year. They don't fertilize every plot every year, but every 2 to 3 years they get back to it and do that.
Sure. Soil sample.
Because it's a huge undertaking. I mean, I've got
it is
20 plots that I have 400 yards from my office, and I barely get enough time to get out there.
I understand. But like you said, if you look at when's the last time you took a soil sample, and then, what have you added to the soil, or when did you add it to the soil? And then that gives you an idea. So when you look back a year or two later, you can say, oh, okay, we hadn't soil sampled this for 2 years. We added some nitrogen and phosphate and whatever else it is, or, limed it or whatever it may be. So that makes sense. Is there anything else you see that we're missing?
I'll also go back in there and, make it more specific, because right now, like we said, we have the notes, which will tell us, like approximately, what portion of the plot, you want to do it. But I'll get the exact numbers and kind of, for instance, the first one says half, clover
chicory. Yep.
And then the north half would be
perfect 10.
Perfect 10. So, I would go back
Break
in there
it
and make specific, each seed, how much we're getting of that seed, because right now, it just includes the whole 2 acres. But in fact, you want 1 acre of each, basically. So I'll go ahead and I'll put that in there and kind of do like the total area, and then also seed specific area.
Sounds like
where
fun.
we can just, kind of total it up by seed type, I guess, right? I guess we would do it.
Yeah,
And
just
then-
type.
Seed type. And then also we'll probably go back into Onyx just for our purposes as we're growing this. This is just the start of what we're doing. So if there's 30 now, we have to assume that, every year we probably find, some other property, some other land. There might be 100 of them 3 or 4 or 5 years from now. So, obviously we might have different tabs on the sheet for those, but I think, this is a good starting point. I guess it's a good setup for us to be from where we are now. But we just want to make sure we got something we can really build on. So good.
Yep.
As far as soil testing, talk to me about that. I know y'all have a process kind of for that.
We offer it online. It's $30, which if you look at other places, you can get it a lot cheaper. But ours is seed specific to what you want to plant in that area.
Right.
So like you check the box that says I'm putting Pro Clover in here, and then we'll send you the recommendation for, okay, your ground has this and it needs this for Pro Clover. Whereas the cheaper ones will just give you, okay, here's where your soil's at. And then you have to figure out what plot you're putting there and then do the additions yourself.
Right.
So,
which we
but
can do.
what we
but
would do
since
is
we've
we
got
would
it so
send the
broken
bag.
out, yeah.
If you order it online, we would send the bag. The bag would be filled with the soil and then shipped to the lab. The lab emails us the results, and then we email you the results.
Right.
So it takes about a week to 10 days, depending on how quickly you ship. Other places can be done, within 3-4 days.
Good deal. Well, we appreciate your partnership and your expertise, and we'll get the ball rolling And then we'll circle back, like you said, have another review before we actually get into planting, once we get those soil samples and make sure we're going to put in the right amount of fertilizer and things of that nature.
Sounds like plan.
In the areas specifically where we're at, especially in areas that have historically been timberland and stuff, in a lot of cases, lime is one of the first things that comes up, the pH. So we'll see how that goes.
Sounds good. Well,
Good.
we're
And do you-
hitting an hour and 26 minutes on the screen recording, so
Yeah, we're having fun. Having fun. Time
it'll be
flies when you're
interesting
having
to see
fun.
how this file turns out. I mean, I've never
Yeah,
done
let's
it
see.
before, so hopefully it's not like, 10 gigabytes that I need to try and figure out how to get to you.
Right, right. All right. Well, either way, we appreciate your time. We'll let you go, and we'll reconvene another time, but we'll circulate back.
All right, sounds good. Isn't that
Thank
nice
you.
meeting you, Drew? We'll keep in
Thank you.
touch.
All right. Yeah, thank
Appreciate
you.
it,
Nice
Tim.
to meet you.
Yep. See you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Drew.
Thank you.